My name is Reverend Dr. May Elise Cannon, and today is Sunday, May 25th, 2025. Today is day 597 days. Today was the half Ironman. I'm here in Victoria in British Columbia in Canada. I'm quite tired. I'm feeling a bit sore. I'm wearing my medal. My husband said that I have to wear it on the plane. So here it is. Thank you to all of you who made donations to encourage me on this journey. I'm scheduled to compete in the full Ironman on September 20th. Today was the half, and the swim was canceled because of algae in the water, which was producing toxins. But I finished the bike and the run in 6 hours and 20 minutes and 2 seconds. 56 miles on a bike with more than 3,000 feet of elevation, and then a half marathon, 13.1 miles, which is about half the distance of Gaza. And a couple times today, I just felt very emotional. Just devastated still, 597 days. And I ran to raise money. The goal is $1,000 for every mile. And so thank you for your support. And today, because it's Sunday, I thought I would read a blog that was just published that I wrote for Churches for Middle East Peace Member Communion, the Christian Reformed Church. They have a Do Justice blog. And so they published this. And it's a blog that I wrote called Running for Peace. And the verse that begins is Hebrews 1:1-2. Therefore, since we're surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of our faith. That's Hebrews 1:1-2. Growing up, my father was a fantastic runner, a really, really good runner. He ran a sub 5-minute mile in combat boots in Vietnam in the early 1970s. He almost qualified for the Boston Marathon. He missed the cutoff time for about 3 minutes when he was in his mid-50s. He described that qualifying race as feeling like his foot was broken, and it was one of the greatest disappointments of his life that he did not qualify. He'd even bought the ticket. But me, on the other hand, I just loved to run with my dad. Was never a great runner, but I could never really keep up. I ran track. I was good, but not very good. My fastest mile was 6 minutes and 13 seconds. I could never beat the 6-minute mile. Just could not seem to break that threshold. And for anyone who's a competitive runner, you're probably thinking you should have found another sport. Often, when you get to the running stage of the race, in terms of the triathlon, you feel like your legs are jello. But somehow they still follow whatever your mind commands them to do. That's what they say about triathlons. But I have this memory of my dad. Only one time when I was in college did I beat him ever. And it was when I came home for a visit. I was running Division III track in school. I was in really good shape. And I think my dad was probably sick. But I remember that he was proud. He was very proud. And I remember how it felt to run fast and free. And so I've always loved that verse. I always love that verse in Hebrews that talks about running with perseverance, the race marked out for us. The idea that God has something for us to do and that we must not give up, that there is a clear and distinct purpose, the scriptures tell us. We must hold on to hope and persevere to the finish line, even when it is challenging and painful. And I'll tell you, by mile 9 on that half marathon today, it was painful, regardless of the cost. In 2014, my dad died of lung cancer because of his exposure to Agent Orange in Vietnam. Just a year or so before, he'd been in phenomenal shape. He'd never smoked a cigarette in his life. I and my family were devastated. But that year, I had just begun exploring triathlons. I love the challenge of how your body feels when you move from swimming to biking to running. Often you get to the running stage of the race. That's what I was talking about in terms of your legs feeling like jello, but somehow they just follow what your mind commands them to do. And in June 2014, my dad watched me compete in my first Olympic distance, a 1.5K swim, a 40K bike, a 10K run. It was in Jamestown, Virginia. There's a picture, if you go to the blog, that you can see of my dad and me during that event. And it was such a privilege to have him there. At the end of the race, he told me how proud he was of me, but it was also clear that he grieved being unable to run alongside of me. And he said, "Oh, I wish I could run again." My father passed away just a few weeks later. Now, I've always been challenge motivated. One of the best ways to get me to accomplish something is to tell me that I can't do it. And that year, 2014, it was a year of significant grief. But that's how I always felt about the Ironman, the half Ironman. So a few months later, in September 2014, I competed a half Ironman distance triathlon. 1.2 miles swimming, 56 miles biking, 13.1 miles running, 70.3 miles total. I barely trained. I had no business attempting the distance. Nonetheless, I calculated how long it would take me to finish within an 8-hour limit. I was the last official finisher by sheer willpower, determination, and an abundance of the grace of God. I finished in 7 hours, 58 minutes, and 28 seconds. The last official finisher. There were a few dozens that finished after me. They did not medal. But around then, I decided one day I wanted to complete the entire Ironman. It became a bucket list item. I teased that I was half a stud only after finishing half the Ironman distance because it seems so impossible, especially for somebody like me, like a mediocre athlete. Stubborn, yes. Strong-willed, yes. But not someone with renowned physical prowess. Such a feat would demand sheer and utter dependence on God. And as the executive director of Churches for Middle East Peace, I do believe peace is possible in the most unseemly of circumstances, now more than ever. Peace seems far off on the horizon, but I profoundly believe in Jesus, the Prince of Peace, that he goes before us, and that by his grace, God gives us just what we need to keep on taking every step forward to accomplish that which he has called us to do. Peace is possible, and justice will prevail. That's why I continue to swim, bike, and run, however long the distance. I believe that the current realities in the Middle East, in Gaza, in Israel, they're not the end of the story. As the war on Gaza and the recent blockade just surpassed 2.5 months, humanitarian assistance is just starting to be allowed in. The families of hostages who remain in the enclave continue to pray and long for them to be brought home. And my faith in Christ, and I know many of you have faith as well, it inspires me to believe and work towards a different future, one where Palestinians have self-determination and freedom, and Israelis have security and safety, and where all people in the Middle East can have human rights, equality, and hope for a better future for their children. So on May 25th, this is what I wrote in the blog. I'm competing in another half Ironman event. That was today. This race, I didn't end up swimming, but I did it still, the biking and the running, for the people of Gaza, who do not have access to food, water, and humanitarian assistance. I biked today 56 miles for all of the people who've lost loved ones, including those on October 7th, the more than 60,000 Palestinians plus who've been killed in Gaza, the horrors of Israeli bombing. And I'm running, and I ran a half marathon today for peace, that peace might prevail and come quickly. It's so desperately needed, not only for Palestinians and Israelis, but for Lebanese, Syrians, so many others in the Middle East, for me, for us, right? We need Palestinian people to be free. We need Jewish people around the world to be secure. I aim to complete the full Ironman distance in an event on September 20th, 2025, to raise money for Churches for Middle East Peace. The goal, $1,000 for every mile, all 140.6 of them. I have some health challenges, asthma, tracheomalacia, pulmonary issues. So the triathlons are challenging enough in their own right. But then the limitations of my physical body and the inhibitions of this world also seem to get in the way. All of this demands that I and that we remember that God will equip us with what we need so that we might be faithful to run the race, to do that which he has called us to do. May it be so. In the name of Christ. Amen.